Welcome back to Let's Play Out of the Park Baseball 25. We are entering the 2034 season, and I really like where this team is at. I like the roster we have now. I like that we have money available that we can add to that roster at the trade deadline when necessary. So I'm excited. I like where we're at. I think this is going to be one of our better shots at winning a World Series. That is the ultimate goal for this season and this series, of course. And it's an important year, too, because Daniel Cuvée and Tyler Pitzer are in their final years before they reach free agency. And I think if we see both of those guys leave, which I think is a distinct possibility, it's going to get even harder. So, important year here in 2034. Quick offseason review. First of all, Juan Soto, Kyle Tucker, and Yordan Alvarez are all available in free agency, albeit in old and decayed form. I'll put it that way. In terms of the big money free agents, Evan Carter went to the Astros. I think they're going to be the biggest problem within the division for us. He is wrecked, though, in terms of the injury proneness, and because I play with, the realistically high amount of injuries on, what happens is a lot of guys end up wrecked around age 30 anyways. Marcelo Mayer is fragile, but he's going back to the Red Sox on a contract that looks like this. Interesting, has an opt-out after 2 seasons. So his career right now is Red Sox, Yankees, back to Red Sox, which is interesting. Gabriel Arias, Oakland A's legend, is also going to join the Houston Astros, so they had a big offseason for sure. Robbie Snelling to the Angels. Paul Skeens, 6 years, $200 million with the Phillies. Let's see, is there anyone else here that made just big money? Brusdar Gratterall, Mason Miller. Okay, this is good. Mason Miller to the Angels, so he will be in the division against us this year. But yeah, that's what it's looking like. That was the big free agency. And then in terms of trades, we have Reed Detmers going to the Dodgers for the final year of his deal. Here's his career numbers. The Red Sox have received a good young outfielder by the name of Chris Warner. From the White Sox exchange, they get a catcher and a first baseman. Fernando Tatis Jr. has basically been salary dumped onto the Milwaukee Brewers. It's the final year of his deal, and as you can see, decent career, maybe not the greatest, maybe hampered by injuries some. And the Brewers also got center fielder Victor Mesa Jr. from the Marlins. It involved a prospect package with the number 82 prospect in the game, Albert Ramirez. Victor Mesa Jr., though, has 4 Gold Gloves in center. He is an elite defensive center fielder. Here is what I like to call my GM report card. It shows me my best acquisitions and greatest losses by WAR, as well as my best and worst trades by WAR. My best trade so far remains trading for Joshua Mears back in early 2025, but one trade that is climbing the ranks is trading for Tyler Pitzer. Funnily enough, that trade involved Jace Young, who is himself now back in the Oakland A's uniform. My worst trade by WAR so far is this one from 2030, and even though I acquired Dave Sochi, who is my 6th best acquisition by WAR in this entire series, look at what Connor Griffin did last year for the White Sox, a 5 WAR season. And he struck out 221 times, and that was the fear for me. I got to switch to my head scout ratings. He struck out 221 times, but it's a 5 WAR season because he's such a good defensive outfielder, and he was above average by OPS plus. I just didn't think that would happen. And so that remains my worst trade now. More on that later. So Connor Griffin, as you can see, is second now behind Mason Miller in terms of the greatest losses. Best players I have gained. Chris Baker continues to climb. I think he's now the number 1 player by WAR we've had in this series in terms of acquired players. Tyler Pitzer continues to climb. This could be his last year. But in terms of the greatest losses and worst trades, there's one player that has just jumped on my radar who I think is going to be even better than Connor Griffin that I've traded away. Because look at this player, 25-year-old Canadian outfielder Victorien Roussel, and he was part of a trade I did with the Giants back in 2030 that also involved a couple other prospects. We received Rafael in that trade. He played, half a year for us and was bad. Gavin Williams, same story. The main acquisition there was definitely Cam Caminiti, who is now a Kansas City Royal after we have traded him once again. But the big thing is, look at Roussel. Look at these ratings. Look how good of a player he could be. Look at what a big 2033 he had in AAA, and then he comes up into the majors and doesn't do half bad. And I feel bad about this one. You can see the scouting history to some extent. This is what I was seeing around the time I traded him. And obviously that has changed. And obviously he is now poised to become potentially a star in this league. So that's going to feel really bad. I drafted him in the 6th round of the 2028 draft. But the pain doesn't stop there either, because Steve Young, a catcher, was also in that trade. And as you can see, The scouting, around the time I was trading him looked like that, and then he has turned into something like this. He was drafted in the 5th round of the 2027 draft by me, so that's a bad job. You got to hold on to your talent when you draft it, and these guys have really developed a lot, and they look like they could be great players for the Giants. Sadly, they're not going to be great players for us. Here's how our farm system will set up. In 2034, we'll have Alvarado and a Hernfeld in the International Complex. These were 2 of our bigger signings from the previous signing window. Alejandro Ambriz is going to stay in rookie ball. I'm sure people would love to see him move up to, A ball or something like that. He's only 18. He's still quite young. Maybe if he develops a little more, he could finish the year in A-ball. We'll also have Reto Hill and Esau Holden in Arizona. They'll be making their pro debuts. That was our first-round picks and comp pick from the previous draft. We will also be doing the 2034 draft in this video. We have some guys moving up to A. Ian Kammeyer and Jabari Asari. These are guys yet to make their pro debut, but they were also in that draft with Hill and Holden. And then Kevin Lewin, who is in the 2032 draft, is ready to make the move up to a full season A-ball as well, a 20-year-old pitcher. In AAA, we've got some guys right here worth keeping an eye on. Damani Hairston, I think, is a guy who has come along. Nice power. The strikeouts are a concern. We've had guys like that before. And then Sergio Treviso, I don't really know what to do with him. He's maybe trade fodder at this point, or maybe we want to move on from Sochi at some point, and then we, pivot to Treviso. If he had developed in the lab like I wanted him to, I think we maybe would have gone ahead and done that. But for now, he's like kind of too good to be a 4th outfielder. I don't know what to do with him necessarily. Steve DeBona also going to start in AAA. He did a nice job in the player development lab. Our system currently ranks as the 4th best in Major League Baseball, with Bustillos, Nakamura, DeBona, Ambriz, and Morel being top 100 prospects. Here's what the preseason predictions look like according to the game. We are projected to finish 4th in the division with an 82-80 record. You can see just from these projected records in general, it's a pretty good division. I think we've seen that year in and year out. Maybe no super teams, but it's a good division, generally filled with good teams. I expect us to be sort of in the low 90s in terms of the win total. It's just a question if that will be enough to get where we want to be. We have we don't have any players. Well, we do have Chris Greer projected as one of the top hitters in the American League. No projected top pitchers in the National League. I know I keep beating this drum, but the Miami Marlins are really good in this save. Top projected hitter in the National League is Jake Kingston. I've said that before. And then top projected pitcher in the National League, 22-year-old Trip Jennings. How about that for the New York Mets? A stud, an ace. We are ready for opening day, where we will be taking on the Cleveland Guardians, who have Jackson Jobe on the bump. But, have no fear. Have no fear, Detroit Tigers fans. It's a slightly diminished form of Jackson Jobe, who had been very good for the Tigers, and as you can see, is entering his 2nd year with Cleveland. So that'll be interesting to see. He will take on our ace, Tyler Pitzer, and this is a lineup that will feature the return of Jace Young, the debut of Chris McFarland in an Oakland A's uniform, and Liddell Hungo hopefully taking over shortstop. Bottom of the 2nd, it'll be Daniel Cuvée to lead off against Jobe, and he strikes out on 3 pitches, 1 away. Next up will be Jeremy Okoro. And Okoro hits one up the middle, and that is going to be our first hit of the season. That's going to be the first base runner in this game. So there is 1 on and 1 out for Jace Young against Jackson Jobe here in the 2nd. And Young is going to pop out. It's going to be an infield pop out. So that's going to be the 2nd out of the inning, which leaves Chris McFarland taking his first at bat as an Oakland A. He's swinging first pitch, and he's hitting one to the gap. And the question is, can we score a run off that? Okoro heading to 3rd, heading home. Nope, he's going to stop at 3rd. It'll be a 2-out double for McFarland. So that'll be 2 runners in scoring position for Liddell Hungo. And Hungo hits one up the middle himself. That'll score at least 1. I think it'll score 2. And yes, 2-run score on the play. A 2-out RBI single by Hungo gives us an early lead. Bottom of the 3rd, 1 out for Chris Baker. Runs it up to full count. And he will walk. That'll be a base runner. Next up will be Chris Greer. Rain is beginning to fall. Or are we going to get a rain delay here? I guess that's what that means, right? Chris Greer to the right-hand side. And that is going to basically function as a sacrifice, it appears. But I don't want there to be a rain delay or anything like that. We're cruising here. We got to get through at least 5. Daniel Cuvée up next. And he hits one to the right side. Oh, and that's going to get down, and that is absolutely going to score a run. That'll be our 3rd run of the ball game. A nice 2-out double by Daniel Cuvée. But yeah, oh no. Daniel Cuvée may have been hurt there. The trainer examines his leg. They have to take him out of the ball game. Thankfully for Cuvée, it is just a sore groin, a moderate day-to-day injury, and I think we have an off day tomorrow anyway, so that'll help. I'm going to have Juan Chinchilla come into this game, replacing Cuvée. All right, top of the fourth, great game for Pitzer so far. Let's see if he can keep it up against Matt Shaw. And Matt Shaw hits a soft grounder up the middle, fielded by Hungo, one away. That is 10 consecutive batters retired for Pitzer. And that's going to be 11 with Andres Jimenez. Chinchilla is there at third, and it'll be Jamie Banner. Jamie Banner to right. Tyler Pitzer has not allowed a base runner through 4. All right, top of the fifth here. Runner on third, 2 outs. We're facing Danny McKeon, the second baseman. And McKeon hits one over to the third baseman, Chinchilla, who does not make the play. The throw gets away. Wow. So that's a run for Cleveland. Carlos Jorge is up next, and that looks like it's going to be an out taken by McFarland to the bag himself. Halfway home, the score is 3-1. But it's runners at second and third now with 1 out for Jamie Banner. Those runners in scoring position representing the tying run potentially. And Banner is going to hit one to left to Okoro, and that appears it'll tie the game up. Throw home, he is safe, 3-3 your score. And Pitzer, who had such a great start, has allowed a few runs here. We're going to get someone warming up. That someone is going to be, how about Tim Salcedo? But first, it's Pitzer, and he will walk. Wow. Okay, I'm going to visit the mound, and I'm going to bring in Salcedo. Tough inning for Pitzer, who had pretty much cruised up until then. It'll be Salcedo versus Matthias, and it'll be a strikeout. We move on to the bottom of the sixth in a tie game. Bottom of the sixth, they turn to the bullpen in the form of Jose Ferrer. It'll be Jeremy Okoro to lead off against him. And Okoro greets him rudely with what could be a double down the right field line. It'll be a close play at second, but Okoro will be safe. So a leadoff double for Okoro will bring up Jace Young. And Young hits one up the middle, and it will get through, and I do think that'll give us the go-ahead run. Yep, 4-3. We now have a lead once again. Grantland at 17 pitches so far. We leave him in for the top of the ninth against Danny McKeon. And McKeon hits one to left. That should be no problem for Okoro at the end. One away. They bring in a pinch hitter by the name of Joe Blanton. Not that Joe Blanton. And the other Joe Blanton is going to have an infield pop-up. That's going to be taken by Chinchilla. 2 away. And it'll be Homer Bush Jr. Jeff Grantland trying to lock down the 6-out save. And that is exactly what he does. We win on opening day by a score of 4-3. Pitzer absolutely cruised through the first 4 innings before he struggled a little bit in the 5th and a little bit in the 6th, but the bullpen really locked it down, and we got the runs where we needed them. We win this ball game 4-3. Good start to the season for us so far. We are 4-1 to start. We have outscored our opponents 33-11. We're 1 trip through the rotation. You can see those ERAs. Everything is looking great. However, an injury, Pete Barker, who was our sort of long reliever to open the season, he is fragile. A rotator cuff strain will put him out 5 weeks. That means we can call up a pitcher I like quite a bit to serve that same role. That is Robbie Spector. I'm a big Robbie Spector fan. I really like this guy's deal. You can see he pitched pretty well for us in 2033 in AAA, and this year he got started with just a terrific outing, so he will be the long reliever for now. Good start in those first few games, but bit of a skid for us now. We have lost 6 in a row. Our record is now 6-7. Let's at least get a win here, right? Can we get a win? Okay, we get a win. There we go. May 1st, we are 13-15 to start the year. Not quite what I had in mind. 6.5 games off of the surging 19-8 Los Angeles Angels. We are 9th in runs scored, 10th in OPS in the American League. And then pitching-wise, we're 2nd in FIP, but we have had some struggles with run prevention, including the 9th worst bullpen ERA. So maybe that's something we will work on. But we do have some underperformers, and I hate to point fingers, but Daniel Cuvée has not been good through this first month of the season, but he's a streaky hitter, and there's still plenty of time for him. I do want to make one change to the pitching staff. It's in the bullpen, and it's, believe it or not, Connor Gatwood. Connor Gatwood has seen some sort of ratings decline. The control is now at 35. The home run allowed is now a 45, and he's suffered because of it. His ERA to start the year, again, it's 9 games, 11 innings pitched, so it's small sample with all relievers, but it's like a 10 ERA. And he actually has an option, believe it or not. And if he'll allow us to use it, I think we'll bring up someone else from AAA and let him try to work through that in Las Vegas. That replacement, I've decided, is going to be Pat Terrio, who is the closer in AAA right now. And this is always nice. It's good to get someone up to the big leagues who you drafted. And in Pat Terrio's case, a 2028 7th rounder. Welcome to the show. Pete Barker is also ready to come back, so we're going to option back down Robbie Spector, who was just brilliant as a long reliever. We will send him back down to Las Vegas, though, where he will be in the rotation. May 25th, our record is 25-25. One weird thing about this team has been the defense, specifically the defense not being good, and generally I build to have the defense be good. And Chris McFarland, our second baseman, has an injury, and he's been a weird one in that sense because he has a 109 OPS plus, so he's been hitting. Like, he has been hitting for sure. Like, that is a good level of offense for him. But his WAR is negative, and if we go to the fielding stats here, it's because he's already at -7 runs at second base early on in this season. And for the life of me, I just can't understand why. I've never encountered something like this where the ratings just look totally fine to me. Like, these look like this should be a plus second baseman, if anything. The turn DP is important. He has that. He has the range. Like, I just don't understand why he's so bad defensively at second base. That doesn't make any sense to me. But he is injured with a pending elbow injury, so we do want to see what that is. But I'm perplexed by him. Okay, no diagnosis just yet, which is usually a bad thing. Let's see. Let's move on to another day. And he will be out for 4 to 5 weeks. We're going to need an infielder to replace him, and that infielder is going to be Bobby Thornton, who we were lucky enough to sign to a minor league deal this past offseason. Look at what he's done in AAA so far. The guy's absolutely on fire, so we are absolutely going to promote him to the majors. And at this point, I'm willing to just let him take over second base. He'll play there until McFarland comes back, unless he does terrible, in which case we may have to figure something else out. Franco Aleman has struggled with the stopper role to start the season, so I think I'm going to take him off that and put Danny Baudanza into the stopper role. May 28th, so 1 day later, but Chris Baker also has an injury. That is a torn thumb ligament. That is a 1 to 2 week injury, so that will call for us to place him on the 10-day injured list. And he's been a weird one this year as well. Hasn't hit well. He's had stretches of bad hitting before in his career, but the outfield range has come down according to our scout. And the result of that has been also that he's been a -5-run center fielder. So the future for Chris Baker may be in the left. We'll have to see about that. We may have to come up with a better defensive center field option than him. But it's still early days. He's still only 28, but still, we've got him for quite some time. So we may have some long-term questions about Chris Baker. The call-up in this situation is going to be Sergio Treviso. And for now, we'll set it up like this with Sal Frelick playing center against the lefties and Sergio Treviso doing the same versus righties. We are 29-27. It is June 1st, and we are ready for our prospect check-in. I want to check in on the fellas right here. Morel and Nakamura, ratings-wise, still looking good, but their seasons haven't started yet. They play in the Dominican this year as they did last year. Sincere Cabbage Stalk, you probably want to know about. His season has just gotten started in Arizona. Ratings look like that. They've come down a little bit, but honestly, if he fully developed like this, I would totally take him. I think that'd be a perfectly fine third baseman. Moving in here to full season ball, we do have some bad news. Ian Kammeyer, who was our 2033 fourth rounder, and a guy who I was getting pretty excited about actually just based on these ratings, torn PCL. He'll be out 9 to 10 months. That ends his season, but you can see he was off to a scorching hot start in his pro debut. I should also move back, just rewind a little bit here to that draft because Reto Hill and Esau Holden were also in that same draft. They were our first round picks and our comp picks respectively. You know, the performance has looked just fine for me in their debuts so far. So, maybe Hill, there's a chance he finishes in A-ball, but we'll see. He's only pitched 11 innings. Ben Cowan also moving on to A-ball from the Arizona Complex League, so he's making his full season debut. We do have a new guy to add to the list. That is Steve Eggers, a 2030 12th rounder, a catcher I drafted. Just the ratings look nice. I figured I'd add him to the prospect list, and I promoted him from A to AA just now. So we'll see if he can hold his own in AA. He skips high A technically. He is, how old is he? He's 22 years old. In AAA, good news for Steve DeBona. The ratings, potential, and current have come up. So if he's able to fully develop into this, I think he'll be a wonderful shortstop for us. I don't think he'll quite go the way of Daniel Arana, who was kind of a similar profile and then turned into a bust. I would love to call him up, but I need to see him hit more. I need him to be above at least 100 OPS plus before I'd consider calling him up. Hopefully there could be room for both him and Hungo long-term in the infield. That would be a lot of fun. It's just a question of if Hungo can hit enough. This year he's been about a league average hitter at the big league level. And finally, Damani Hairston. I can't help but wonder if this guy is going to be the heir to Daniel Cuvée. We'll have to see about him, but it's been nice to see him develop as well. June 2nd, unbelievable news and unbelievably bad news. I've never seen one quite like this before. So Chris Baker, who suffered that torn ligament in his thumb, that was originally a 1 to 2 week injury. There has been a setback. He's going to need surgery, and that is now a 3-month injury as of June 2nd. That is unbelievable. I haven't quite seen a 1 to 2 week injury create that much of a setback before, that much of an increase in the time that someone will be out. I'm a little bit shocked by that. I don't entirely know what to do. I guess we'll stick with the Treviso and the Frelick center field for now, but man, that is a massive loss for us. June 22nd, we are 40-35. We are 10 games off the Angels and right in position there for a third wildcard spot. A lot of season left to play. It's McFarland's turn to come back from the injured list. Bobby Thornton did a good job in his run where he got 21 starts, but it seems very BABIP-y, just kind of based on the slash line. And, his ratings aren't as good as McFarland's defensively, but he still, struggled with the same thing, like -4 zone rating in only 176 innings at second base. Like, that's a really bad pace. So we'll just have to hope McFarland can figure it out defensively because he was hitting. This game just has a way of giving me an injury right when I'm about to get a player back or right when I get a player back. So the next day after we get McFarland back, it's Cuvée injured with diagnosis pending. We'll have to see what that is. And it's a simple day-to-day injury. I think he'll be able to play through it. July 11th is draft day. That draft will be the last thing we do in this episode, but we've played some solid ball lately. You can see here in the middle of June, we lost 3 in a row, but since then, heading into the draft here on July 11th, we are 16-5. We won 16 of our last 21 games, and that has put us at a record of 52-40, 7.5 games off the Angels for the division lead, but with a sizable lead in the wild card at the very least. We're secure in having a playoff spot for now. We'll see what the second half holds for us, but let's get on with the draft. All right, let's get going with this here draft. We will be picking a 32nd, which comes with a slot value of $4 million, although I think we have the ability to go over slot if there's someone available that we really like. We've gone ahead and simulated to our pick. The Pirates had the first pick. They selected outfielder Danny Sobel, who is a high school outfielder. The first pitcher was Joe Bagnall, who is a high school pitcher. The first player selected out of college was by the Guardians. That was Joey Greider, who is someone we looked at coming out of high school. He ended up going to college. And then finally, the first college pitcher off the board was selected by the Padres, Danny Rainey, nicknamed Big Stud. With the 32nd overall pick, what I come to find is that it's mostly higher upside high school guys available. A lot of the really good college guys are basically gone by now. So we're going to go with another high school pitcher in the first round. That pitcher is going to be Rodolfo Moreno. Here's what I like. I like the stuff potential at a 70. I like that there's still potential for plus home run allowed and plus control as well. This is a good arsenal here. I like that it is dominated by that potential 75 changeup. Like, that can get a lot of swing and miss. A changeup is a good thing to have. I like the high work ethic. I like that he is durable. You don't see that much. So that durability is nice. I think it'll help him. And he is available with a slot demand. So we're going to go ahead and draft this player, Rodolfo Moreno, out of Curacao. And we're going to double up here on high school arms in the second round because I almost drafted Eli Gross in the first round, and the reason I ultimately decided not to was I thought, well, Moreno will definitely be gone in the first round, but Eli Gross might stick around till the second, and here he is. High intelligence, that home run allowed potential is awesome. He's older than Moreno, so he's a little more ready to play in the Arizona Complex League, like he's almost a year older than him, and I'm fine with this arsenal, so we're going to go with Eli Gross here in the second round. And in the third round here, we'll select our first hitter, who is also going to be a high schooler. This is Micah Latigue. He is huge. He is 6'9", only 205 pounds at 6'9". I think that's kind of a skinny build, right? But, he's young. Good avoid K's potential, good power potential, good eye potential. This is a guy who could really hit if he's able to fulfill that potential. We're going to go with him in the third round here. Ooh, no, we're not. His demand is $3.2 million. I don't think I want to do that. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pivot off Micah Latigue into Billy Graham just because of the demand. And it's a similar enough player, I would say. A little less eye, a little more power potential. And plus, he's Billy Graham, so he could also preach to the locker room in case we need to consult the man upstairs. Fourth round here, it's probably time to draft a college player. I will go with college infielder Mike Del Fosse out of the University of Cincinnati. Just seems like a well-rounded infielder. And in the fifth round, I'll do it again by selecting Andy Gunther, who is definitely more of a glove guy than a bat, but at least he has some gap power potential. We'll go with him out of Vanderbilt in the fifth. And that will end this episode. I will see you all for the second half of 2034.